It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Went down to the south side today, got home, doing the thing, doing the job, having fun, living the dream.
For the most part, I mean, it's a victory Monday. So, from a fan's standpoint here, I'm doing pretty well. But September 22nd yesterday at the Steeler game, I would not have predicted that I was going to get sunburnt at the Steeler game on September 22nd prior to the season. This is bullcrap, Alan. That is my one gripe that I have.
I tell you what, the press sits on the west side of the stadium, and you're on the east side. So I'm sitting there staring at the visitor sideline, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of yellow seats up there. Like, what's going on? Why is nobody why is nobody sitting in their seats? Like, the game's about to start. And then I generally go out onto the rotunda, take a little video of the team running out of the field or something like that. And I got out there. I was like, oh man, it's hot as heck out here. No wonder nobody's sitting in those seats, baking in the sun on that far sideline. They're all hiding in the, basement of the stadium, sipping their cold Coors Lights. Like, there's no reason to be out there baking.
Yeah, well worth it because of the win. Had they lost, I probably wouldn't feel the same. It'd be pretty similar to last year home opener when they lost to the 49ers, and I was sunburned after that one as well. But either way, we don't need to sit here and talk about my sunburn. There's some newsy stuff to get to. And then also, I got to give a cap tip. Shout out to DB for jumping on the post-game show with you yesterday. It was a nightmare getting out of the city. They do this thing they have for the last few years now, getting out of the casino where they reroute traffic just to come back in the same direction. It's a nightmare getting out of there. But shout out to DB for jumping on the post-game show with you. But I want to get into my thoughts for sure in a little bit here. But got to go through some news and notes here. First off, a little bit of a transaction here. Calvin Anderson coming in to provide some tackle insurance for the Steelers. We know about Troy Fautanu, who's going to miss. I mean, if you put out there yesterday, he's going to miss basically the rest of the regular season. Maybe he returns if this team is able to make the playoffs. So Calvin Anderson to come in and provide some tackle insurance. Alan, do we know anything about Calvin Anderson? No, he was a UDFA, spent time with the Patriots, a couple other organizations, most recently with the Patriots, multiple stints there, actually. But what do we know about Calvin Anderson, if anything?
The only thing I remember about Calvin Anderson, he went to went to Rice. It was a grad transfer to Texas. Very average, size, 6'4", 6'5", 300, typical sized offensive lineman. But the thing I remember is he got malaria and he missed time, and then he had some kind of heart issue too. It was like a weird combination of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what that means. My guess is this is simply a break glass in case of emergency kind of transaction. And certainly they're at emergency levels on the offensive line, with now Troy Fautanu likely out for the season. Dylan Cook. We haven't really talked about that a lot, but I wrote on Saturday in the Southside Scoop, Dylan Cook is dealing with a Liz Frank injury. It's not like he's going to be coming off the IR when that week 4 rolls around. He's got a couple more weeks beyond that. So there's not a lot of help coming there at the tackle position. Spencer Anderson, I mean, maybe they're going to get to the point where they can consider him the backup tackle again, but I'll be honest, things weren't going great at guard. So, I think you got to
actually want to talk about him.
Yeah,
I actually want to talk about him in a little bit, but like I said, I don't know much about him. Just seems like depth there. That wasn't one of the names that I was told to keep an eye on. Actually, like Chris Hubbard's on the 49ers practice squad. I thought they might turn back to an old friend there. And then Donovan Smith still out there in free agency. I know that he certainly had his struggles.
Later, right? I think that would have been an interesting pickup too.
Yeah, he had his struggles last year with the Chiefs playing still on the left side. Obviously played with Tampa for a long time. Had some struggles with the Chiefs. He's definitely getting up there in age. But I mean, again, you're talking about depth purposes. I thought those would have been better options than this. But obviously, they got to feel good about where they are with Broderick, I guess. And I think after yesterday's game, he maybe eased some concerns there. Definitely looked better than he had, obviously, in the previous 2 weeks. All right, but there's that, obviously. Talk about some injuries coming out of this game. Alex Highsmith, we saw leave early. We saw Corey Trice leave early. Anything new with either of those guys?
Saw Corey Trice very briefly today. I mean, it's a hamstring. You know what you're getting there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's TBD until it's not. Talked to Alex Highsmith today. Said he had an MRI on the groin. Seemed to suggest it's worse than the one in training camp, which he was out a month after the one in training camp. So, I mean, we'll see what this MRI says. I would not feel very positive about Alex Highsmith for at least like the next couple weeks, just based on him today. It seems like this is the potential for a long-term absence.
And again, the guy that's going to step in for him is definitely somebody that I want to talk about when I go through my thoughts of the game. I feel good about that spot, obviously, but your depth takes a hit then, obviously, if Nick Herbig is going to step into that role. So there's that. And then the running backs. I mean, Najee in the sling today, Jaylen Warren getting an MRI on his knee. Where in the world did this come from?
I don't know. I knew when Mike Tomlin was vague about what was wrong with Jaylen Warren, kind of like the little the wind horse, like something's going on here. Like, I just like this. It's not right. And so knee MRI is not good. And then Najee Harris, man, I don't know. I talked to him after the game. He seemed fine. He was not. In fact, like, it's funny. Like, Najee does not like to talk to the media. I don't think I'm like breaking any secrets there. And he was like, "Do I have to talk to him?" And I mean, like, players that are injured usually do not have to talk. Like, if you're getting treatment, that's like one of the actual like league approved exemptions from speaking to the media. So I don't know. I don't know what it popped up. If it was like somebody slept on it, you woke up this morning and it hurt, or what happened. But I mean, he ran the last play of the game, so I hope it's not something major. It would be pretty random for that to happen in there. But a sling is a sling. That's not what you want to see for your starting running back. Certainly not with the backup in the MRI tube. I mean, good thing Cordero Patterson looked good, I guess.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the names that I have here. I don't know. Maybe the answer for everybody is to just get them Jerome Bettis big rubber elbow pads and just wear them all the time. I mean, the switch for Broderick seemed to work, so maybe that could be protected.
Great out there. I mean, best he's looked in a while. I mean, I think that in general, the big Jerome Bettis elbow pads are like, if I'm making a Madden creative player, I am putting the big Jerome Bettis elbow pads on him. Unless he's like a quarterback, like any other position. Those are the ones I want. And also, we got to bring back the cowboy collar. I know this is before your time, but the big,
I know what you're
neck roll or the cowboy. I actually like the cowboy collar better than the big neck roll. But the cowboy collar, elbow pads, and the short cut jersey, like Eric Dickerson, like that, like just comes down to the tops of your pants. That's what it's all about. That's the look I'm going for from myself personally.
I like the aesthetic. You say before my time, but Leighton Vander Esch was keeping that collar alive for a little bit.
Yeah, Leighton Vander Esch did wear that.
So there was at least a couple examples.
Somebody else recently, I think Rob Spillane wore it a couple times for the Steelers. He didn't regularly, but I do think he wore it a couple times.
I mean, if there was a guy to do so, he definitely seems like he would be the right guy to do so. What's funny, Alan, I was like yesterday typing out names because I wasn't even sure at first. Like when I was sitting in stadium and like when a player would make a play or something, I was like just typing names. Like, I want to bring this up on the podcast. I wasn't sure if I was going to be doing the post-game show at this point or what. But literally I just started typing names out and I had so many names typed out. I was like, should I even continue to do this? Like literally on my phone, I just typed out the names of Nick Herbig, Cordero Patterson, James Pierre, Justin Fields, Corliss Waitman, Calvin Austin, Mason McCormick, Patrick Queen, and then just the entire defensive front ended up being on there anyways because of their performance against the Chargers run game in the second half and the way that they were getting after Justin Herbert and then Taylor Heineke when he came into this football game. But I want to start with Nick Herbig because this is a guy that's obviously going to take on an elevated role, it sounds like, for multiple weeks, potentially in the absence of Alex Highsmith. He's been awesome. Now he's going to be thrust into a role where he is starting opposite TJ Watt. I have full confidence that he is going to be able to take advantage of that and be serviceable. I think he's even answered some questions that I had about him and his ability to play the run as well. Baldy did a great breakdown on Nick Herbig's play in this game. And there were some questions that I had about him coming out. I mean, I think that a lot of people did because of his size, thinking that teams are just going to run right at him. How's he going to hold up against the run? I'm not saying that this is going to be an every week thing. I think teams are still going to test him in that regard, and I'm sure he's going to have some lowlights in that regard. But he's held up better in that respect as well. And we already knew what he could do as a pass rusher. So I'm very excited. As much as it sucks to see in the absence of Alex Highsmith, I'm very excited about Nick Herbig getting this opportunity.
Yeah, I think like the thing he's proven to me is that he can certainly he can certainly play the run in short spurts. We'll see if he can handle the physical toll of like an entire game of double teams, and whether that physical toll of being in there playing, 80% of the snaps, all the effort of run blocking detracts any from his pass rush. Because, it's about energy, right? It's like, how much energy do you have to expend to do all this? And let's be honest, they don't have a ton of depth. Like, I mean, Marv, I think is probably going to have to come in and play some outside linebacker on first and second downs. He is obviously a bigger body dude, so that'll be helpful. But I mean, you can't just go from playing 30% of the snaps to playing 100% of the snaps and expect that that's going to be the same. There's going to be some drop off when you start to play a lot more, especially at a position like that where you're wrestling 300-pound guys every down. And so I think there's going to be an adjustment period. There's going to be some learning curve for Nick Herbig, and there's definitely going to be some trickle down effect where, like, Nick Herbig might be able to do like 80% of Alex Highsmith, but DeMarvin Leal can only do 50% of Nick Herbig, and I don't know, whoever is the next outside linebacker can only do 20% of DeMarvin Leal. That's definitely going to happen here.
Yeah, certainly.
Ade Ogundeji is the only other outside linebacker.
Oh, that's right.
In the organization. So I assume he is by default outside linebacker 4 as we stand here today.
Yeah. Well, we got a transaction at tackle. You wonder if maybe they'll go that path depending on the severity of Alex Highsmith's injury there. Another name that I had on here that I just mentioned was James Pierre. You mentioned the Corey Trice injury, but also Dante Jackson for 2 straight weeks giving us a scare. In Denver, it was more about like dehydration and obviously the elevation, stuff like that he was going through. And he even like had a funny exchange on Instagram with a Steelers fan who asked him what was going on. But then in this game, with the way that he kind of landed and then rolled over holding his shoulder, I was like, oh no, this isn't going to be good. But then he came right back in. But James Pierre did play a couple snaps on defense in this game. But the reason that I put him actually on this was his work as a gunner. I swear to God, he was the first guy down there every single Corliss Waitman punt, forcing fair catches.
And Roddy Williams made a tackle in coverage as well.
Yeah.
How fortunate is it for the Steelers that they have multiple special teams injuries, and they're like, oh, I got this. I got 2 guys who already know everything about how to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Just get Hot Rod and JP in here. We'll be fine. And they were. Yeah. Rather fortunate. I thought Pierre was actually better than any of the punt gunners they've played at punt gunner to this point this season. I thought he was the best. I think this was probably their most consistent special teams game on both sides. Yeah. Like Calvin Austin looked really good returning punts. They did great job. They tried some of the short kickoffs, and they have them at the 12 and the 18 on the 2 kickoff returns.
Yeah.
Those are big wins. Like, I thought they did a really nice job on special teams. The only thing, geez, Boz, you can't make a 62-yarder? What the heck? I mean, just one thing away from perfect, otherwise would have had it all. I want to get your thoughts about the quarterback position. Okay. DB and I talked a lot about this after the game, and I want to get your thoughts about Justin Fields, about evaluating his performance, maybe compared to what you expected, and if you feel like he took a step forward in that game.
Absolutely. In my opinion, he took a step forward. He only had one time in this game where he scrambled, and this is coming from somebody that I expected and thought that they needed to have the QB run game return in this one. I'm not saying that this is like some revelation or some evolution of him as a player. We'll see if this continues, but like that pass chart and what he did as a passer in this game far exceeded what I expected to see from him. I kind of thought that they were going to continue to have like those shackles on him in terms of the way that they approached this game and kind of took it out of his hands. But like he made plays that won them this game as opposed to just like managing things for them. I thought that they kind of put it in his hands at times. I mean, he even didn't get like that one to Freiermuth that he dropped right before halftime might have been like his second best throw of the day that he didn't get. So I thought Justin was really good in this game. To be honest, my mind has kind of shifted. I would kind of continue to roll with Justin until he gives you a reason not to, based off the fact that I thought that this is, and I also was of the mindset before the season, let me preface by saying this, that to me, it was more important to try to figure out if you had a solution at quarterback than anything else. So I would have been rolling with Justin from the start. The fact that Russell won the job, though, I was kind of going with that mindset at that point, not my own, just thinking from the organization. So through 2 weeks, Justin hadn't shown me anything that I would have said, okay, from the organization's point of view, this is now his job. In week 3, for me, he changed that.
Yeah, and I think he's getting another one no matter what, because I don't think Russ is healthy.
Yeah.
Yet. I mean,
okay,
he didn't do much last week, man. I don't know. And now you're at the point where you kind of have to wonder if Russ will be a factor when he is cleared. You know, it's not like if Russ goes out there like full Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know. I'm still not on board. If like, I think I'd give Justin one more game, and then then we'll see. I want to talk about the wide receivers position. There's a little bit of a stir on social media on Sunday when Roman Wilson was announced as a healthy scratch, something that you, me, and DB discussed on Friday as a possibility. And then it almost blew up in the Steelers' face when Van Jefferson got hurt. And thank goodness for Scotty Miller and Cordell Patterson being pretty versatile guys. They held down the fort while Van was seeing 22 Chargers instead of 11, and eventually was able to get back out there. But man, that was a near disaster. What do you make of that, and just the way the Steelers wide receivers played in general? Obviously, Calvin gets the big touchdown. Does that change your feelings about the wide receiver position going forward?
Nah, I think that it'd be, making a bit of an overreaction to think that the wide receiver position is all of a sudden solved with what you saw from Calvin Austin in this game. This is somebody that I thought he could be a contributor in some way to the receiving room, like in the way that he did. Like every once in a while, he's going to rip off a 50 to 60-yard play like he did in this game. He's that type of explosive player. Great to see happen in this game. Great to get, a couple contributions from Scotty Miller, like 2 big plays. One of those getting an extra 15 because of the face mask too, with a really nice move. Derwin James, of all people, he put a nice move on to force that face mask. But to your point, when we were talking about Roman Wilson potentially being a healthy scratch, I wasn't necessarily thinking the idea that wouldn't be replaced though. Like to go in with 4 wide receivers and then you lose Van Jefferson, you're down to 3 healthy wide receivers in this game. Like that is near disaster. To your point about, what Cordero Patterson can provide to them from a versatility standpoint, luckily they were kind of saved by that. The big plays from Calvin were awesome, but like big picture to me, it's not changed in the way that I feel about the state of this wide receiver room.
I don't think so either, and I do think Roman gets a helmet next week. The big impetus there was clearly they wanted to get Dean Lowry in, so they had another defensive lineman. They knew it was going to be base defense almost the entire game, 3 defensive linemen on the field. They didn't just want to go with 6. They wanted to be able to rotate 2 full sets, even if there was an injury. So I think that was the big reasoning. So I do think we'll see Roman Wilson out there next week. I do think they'll be, he'll have 3 full practices where they can put in a specific role for him and say, hey, here's your job. This is what we're going to ask you to do this week. And then, hopefully build from there. I still think this wide receiver room needs help, but I think you are encouraged a little bit by the way you see Justin Fields kind of working through his progressions a little bit better, finding different guys in different spots. Like if you're able to get Scotty Miller 2 catches a game and Calvin Austin 2 or 3 catches a game, then like it doesn't start to look like the kind of panic. Like maybe you don't have one guy who is producing wide receiver 2 numbers, but if you can go Moneyball and you can reproduce Johnny Damon in aggregates, then I think that you can feel a little bit better, even if there isn't like one guy that you're like, yeah, that's my wide receiver 2, man. Like if you can just get enough out of Miller, out of Patterson, out of Cal, if Roman Wilson can contribute a little bit, then I think that kind of gets you to a place where it's not this sort of panic that I think as the first 2 weeks felt like.
Yeah. I mean, improved QB play would certainly make up for what's not there in the wide receiver room. I mean, those guys, they're NFL players. They're talented dudes. It's just comparatively, they don't have that dude other than George right now in the room. I put up a highlight clip of some Justin Fields plays in this game, and somebody replied to me like, why did you put like a 7-yard throw in here. And I was like, well, it wasn't because of the throw itself. I like the fact that he worked from left to right, got to his third read before making the throw. That is why it was on there, because that's something that we've talked about with Justin Fields not doing. Like that is, we know that the talent's within there, but those were things that weren't taking place. So it was nice to see him take a leap in that regard.
Yeah, I think so. I think the decision making continues to improve. Like there's real reasons to feel good about Justin Fields. Like it's not just like that the results are good. They were good, but like there's real reasons to feel good about him continuing to improve, continue to look better. I do think he has a chance to go out in this game against Indy and really put his stamp on, hey, this is my job. Like if he improves as much as he did from week 2 to week 3, between week 3 and week 4, it's going to be his. I don't see how you can keep him out of there. Continues to not turn the ball over. One interception. It wasn't a great decision. Yeah. It was also unlucky, and I think, just not putting the ball in danger. The one intercept, the one turnover in 3 games is one thing, but it's not like he's had, 6 almosts either. It's been pretty, it's been pretty, it's been good, man. It's been good. I think he's really played well, and obviously it needs to continue. I just, think DB tweeted out some stats today, middle of the road, basically statistically, but I think you can see where the growth can go from here.
Yeah, the one thing that he's a lead in, second in the NFL, is completion percentage over expected, which was pretty eye-opening to see. Just like a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers that high, and that was he was like plus 10.9 or something yesterday, completion percentage over expected alone, which is one of the better around the league.
Yeah, and what was the first 10 passes all completed? Like, when have you seen that from Justin Fields?
I mean, but Herbert on the other side too was like 10 of his first 10. Fields was 11 of his first 11. Like, yeah, it was just a lot of completions yesterday at the first half for sure. There's 2 other players that I for sure wanted to bring up. Mason McCormick, because I want to get your perspective on this. Spencer Anderson certainly has struggled a bit at guard. I mean, he's a 7th round player in his second year, kind of expected. Again, like was kind of thrust into the spot with Isaac Seumalo's injury, and we figured that he'd be the guy to get the first crack. Mason McCormick was used as an extra offensive lineman at times. He also was playing in Spencer Anderson's place at times. Isaac Seumalo, we expect he's going to be back, maybe even as early as this game against the Colts. But if he isn't, do you think that there's potentially a change there? Could we potentially see Mason McCormick thrust into the starting lineup in place of Spencer Anderson?
I think there's a possibility, yeah. I'm not 100% sure it's going to happen. I think some of that was sort of acknowledging that the game plan was just going to be to put their heads down and run the ball no matter what. And I think Mason McCormick's tape, when you go back and look at it, it's like crazy. It's all over the place. It's like just raw, pure power. And that's great in the run game. It's not always great in pass protection, especially on the backside of the quarterback. And so I think it may be a little bit determined by what the Steelers think they want to do. I haven't watched enough Indy yet to have like a good sense of what I think that is going to be. But I think if they think it's a similar game plan to last week, then I think you'll see a lot of Mason McCormick out there at either left guard or the extra. I mean, it's almost not fair that they could line up with an extra offensive lineman and Darnell Washington, who is himself an extra offensive lineman, and still run the ball. They're just like, hey, we're running. You can't stop it. Here we come. And they did anyway. Like that's good stuff. And if they keep that up, they'll make some noise.
I mean, I think the Steelers can do whatever they want offensive, whatever game plan. Right now the Colts 31st in total yards, 31st in rushing yards given up, 21st in passing yards, 27th in third down percentage. And you might not have seen what they did in their last game against Chicago, but certainly against Green Bay, where Green Bay ran the ball, 50, 60 times in that game seemingly, and they were just having their way. And Indy has lost to Forrest Buckner in the process of that as well, and won't see him in this game. So to me, I'm thinking ground immediately is going to be heavily emphasized right off the bat, but I think you can get them through the air as well, is what I'm getting at. But I think being the Steelers, Of course, maybe Najee Harris and or Jaylen Warren's availability would impact that, but
Yeah, sure.
that's
You're
just
not going to
my
go into a
first thought.
game with the run it at all costs mentality with Cordero Patterson and Jonathan Ward. I don't think. Like, we'll see who's there at running back. I think
Yeah,
Jonathan Ward's all right. I think that's a pretty solid practice squad call up if they need to go down that road. And man, see, Patterson looked awesome. Dude, where was like? I'll tell you what. I think I didn't give him enough credit for how good of an athlete he still is. Like, dude, that was impressive. That dude can, like, he's not just straight line fast. He hits like, man.
That's I think that's the part that people didn't realize was there, because you realize he has the most kick return touchdowns in NFL history, and you just think like this speedy finesse guy.
Nothing about finesse.
Man, he can just run you. He will run.
He is a running back that used to be a wide receiver who looks like a tight end and runs like a fullback.
Mm-hmm.
I
think that's what it seems like. That's what Chicago's trying to do with Velus Jones. I don't know if it's going to happen, but like that same type of player is what they're trying to create there. But yeah, Cordero's still.
Is he? No, he's a little bit small.
No. Yeah, but just like receiver, kick returner, now running back, plays a physical game. Yeah, I mean, Cordero was certainly impressive in that one. The last player that I wanted to bring up to you was Patrick Queen. Could have had an interception in this game that he didn't get. 2 straight weeks now. This one was a little bit more in his breadbasket than against Denver, where he had to like disengage from the offensive lineman and it hit his hands.
So down anyway, so he was going to be immediately tackled. So that was a good non-interception on that one. I'll point
out. But so this splash play
this one is some money on the board, this one is you owe your teammates some cash for that one. You gotta. I could have caught that one. Come on.
But anyway, so the splash play hasn't been there yet for Patrick Queen, but I thought he looked really good out there. I think that you're really starting to see the dividends that having that type of athlete in the middle can have for everybody else on the defensive side of the football.
Dude, it's a game changer to see him cover Ladd McConkey the way he did. Like,
yeah, right.
I hate making this comparison because it's not fair, but it does for the Steelers. It's not saying it's the same, but it does for the Steelers defense what Ryan Shazier used to do for the Steelers defense. It allows everyone else to do their job at a completely different level when you have a linebacker that can do that. It just opens so much more up when you have a linebacker that can carry the seam, even with a very good wide receiver. I thought Queen was awesome in this game. It didn't necessarily show up on the score sheet, and man, he'd have had 30-yard return if he had caught that too. That's the worst part of it. There's nobody in front of him. But I think it's coming, and it was a really good game for the Steelers defense overall, obviously. But I thought the linebackers were a huge part of it. I thought Peyton Wilson was again very good, and then it was a big E-Rob game. Man, he gets the sack that knocks Herbert out. Like, what a dude. What a dude. It was such a good game. I could talk about positive contributions from the Steelers defense for like another hour. I already talked about it all morning on Morning Rush, but there's no shortage of positive contributions there.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the defensive front at all really on here for that reason. I want people to go and watch the Morning Rush to get your take on what Cam Hayward was able to do in this game, along with obviously, everybody along that defensive front and how different that looks with a healthy Larry Ogunjobi as well. And obviously the contributions from Keanu Benton, Mont Adams, those guys up there, just fantastic depth along the defensive front. And I know we had a question we wanted to get into as well, which comes from Hayden Bishop, loyal watcher/listener of Afternoon Drive. Why has Minkah been quiet? We just talked about Patrick Queen not having that splash play yet, but Minkah Fitzpatrick haven't noticed a ton. The ball production not there yet this year. And, if you were paying attention all off season with the other additions they made, such as bringing in Patrick Queen and Deshaun Elliott, getting Minkah back to playing Minkah ball was said a ton. And I think there's people that are just waiting for that turnover production to start showing.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting that, we haven't really seen the splash. Steelers got caught trying to disguise their coverage and really a good call against what they were going into, which was cover 2 for that touchdown. And I think that's something they've got like that's the thing you want to do, right? You want to disguise the coverage and you want to get the quarterback fooled, and they didn't. So I think they've got to figure out why that isn't working. Because that's what's really going to create those turnovers for Minkah, those splash plays. But I think he's done a nice job at his job. I just don't think the splash has really been there for whatever reason. It's almost hard to like criticize the Steelers secondary because the pass rush has done such a good job that like nobody can get the ball out. Like it's not like they're giving up big pass plays.
That's
like
true.
The interception comes when the quarterback feels TJ Watt coming and has to rush it and just throws it wildly, and that's when it lands in Minkah Fitzpatrick's hands. When he doesn't feel TJ Watt coming and he ends up on his back, Minkah just goes,
okay. Yeah.
Nice job.
Nice job, everybody else.
Like I just think they're honestly like the pass rush is doing such a good job that they're not even getting to that part of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason. That probably is it. I was sitting here trying to think like, what do I think that the reason is? Because it's not like he's playing poorly or anything on tape. Certainly.
I do think
he's
them
in the
not
right spot.
like that's like a flash for me. Is like when they're not when the disguises aren't working. That's a problem. That's a big part of what they're trying to do with Minkah Fitzpatrick. They got to figure that out.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll see. Hopefully that is in the near future. We start to see some of that ball production. I thought week 1 against Atlanta, though, he was really good in terms of the run fits and made that one really nice play on Bijan, who he might still be running if he didn't make that tackle. So, Alan, anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay, you know the drill. Tell the people to find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, and TikTok. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Steelers takeaways from last night's game is still there at the top of the page. Very good stuff. You got big story coming up from DB. You got Southside Scoop coming later in the week. You need to be SN Plus to get those. It is 10% off with the promo code Allen10. It costs $4 a month, and you get ad-free reading experience all over SteelersNow.com and Pittsburgh Baseball Now and Pittsburgh Hockey Now, which I don't mention enough, but I should. But the subscription is good for all 3 sites. So you get all the stuff from me, you get all the stuff from John Parado, you get all the stuff from Dan Higarski. Boom. Do it.
And we just had a preseason Penguin game the other night. So hockey season about to be in full swing. So best time to get signed up. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here on YouTube. Also hit I said the notification bell. Also hit us in the comments for any questions for a future episode, your thoughts on anything that we talked about today. Obviously, if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there, and hit us up on TikTok at Steelers Afternoon Drive as well. And they can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.